The theme for our luncheon has been Inspire Hope, Planting the Seed, and of course that's what we've done in the lives of many over the years. And so when we're looking for someone to speak about planting seeds, there's no better planter than a gardener. And so we've asked a gardener to come with us today and share his story of planting the seed. But just so you know, before you leave today, each of you will receive this book called The Gathering Place. It is a book written by our guest, Kerr. Not only written by him, but each has been signed, a signed copy. So as you leave today at the back table, please remember to pick up your book, The Gathering Place. And also in the back, we'll have this book that he's also written, Growing at the Speed of Life. This book is available for purchase for $15. And if you purchase this book, Volunteers of America will receive a portion of those proceeds as well. So you can help us to continue to plant that seed. Kerr is an internationally known culinary and television personality, award-winning author, and master of metaphorical speaking. His focus is on serving people who want to make healthy, creative lifestyle changes and to increase their consumption of fresh, local, edible plants and seafood. His life goal is to help convert habits that harm into resources that heal both for ourselves and others in need. I have had the opportunity of greeting him and speaking with him at his home. You'll find him an enjoyable person, very humble, very pleasant. Would you please greet our special guest, Kerr.
Yes, it's really odd when somebody comes and inspects your garden as well as yourself before speaking. So, and thank you for coming and looking at the garden. It's lovely to have you on the home. By the way, this is a Harris tweed, and they're sort of designed so that you can drop on them. They're pretty shapeless in the beginning, and they can pick them up, but they don't ever seem to change. The tie is mason bees. If some of you don't know what they are, they don't stray from home, and they pollinate everything in sight. Don't expect honey from them. They don't produce honey. They just crawl into little holes, lay their larvae, and then produce all this pollen to feed the larvae, and they wall them up with a sort of little clay partition. You had to put clay out for them in order for them to help them to do that. That's just a matter of speaking. So I've noticed that everybody from presidential hopefuls and everything else is taking ties off nowadays, so I thought I'd just sort of throw that to the ground as well. That's as far as I'm prepared to go, although we get great fun recently. Trina and I have what we call a naked lunch, and people's eyes sort of roll at that idea. And the idea is that it's that juice, naked, you know, you might have seen it, it's just a whole juice, and you just have a juice for lunch. It's very good, it actually works quite well. So, okay, let's get down to it. I have a timer here, and I do know that you need to get back to work, so this is the timer, and it will go off when I'm about 3/4 of the way through. A friend of mine, a friend of Trina and mine, by the way, this is my wife Trina. Get quick wave. Okay. Remember the first debate, this is not our anniversary. He had a wonderful phrase, which was, humility is being known for who you are. I love that because, you know, flip it on the other side, pride is being known for who you're not. But pride is also being known for who you were. And so I'm really not up here today for what I was, because we did the Galloping Gourmet television series, and that went all over the world and all that sort of thing. That's such a long time ago. And much more real to me is my little garden, which I've been digging away at, and which I designed to be able to produce half of the harvest in that garden would go to food banks. And I really wanted to do that. And that's really started some years ago, because during a period of about 1975 to 1985, Trina and I were complete volunteers. We received no salary at all. We simply gave ourselves to the concept that they were very poor people in this world today, and that they needed little gardens if they could possibly get them, and that's what we wanted to do. And so we gave ourselves to that concept. It was right in the middle of that, when we were living in Tacoma, that I trotted off down to St. Joe's. Some of you know the famous church there, which has a very large lunch line, about 450 people at that time had lunch. And quite a disparate group of people, interesting to sort of look at en masse. And I decided when I saw that I would go into the kitchen and offer my services to chop onions. I'm actually quite good at chopping onions. So I rather like to be looked at whilst I'm chopping onions too. The ego hasn't completely died. So the result was that I was chopping onions, and the lady who's in charge of the lunch line then came up. She said, "Aren't you so?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Come with me. I think there's something you can do better than chop onions." And I thought, "You know, really?" And she said, "Yes, come with me." And I said, "What is it?" And she said, "I'd like you to sit at the table with my clients and chat with them." And I thought, I'm not sure that I know how to do that. She said, "But it's quite simple. I just chat." So I took my tie off and I mussed my hair up more than it normally was, pulled my shirt out a little bit at the back and sat down at the table with just two others. And I said, "Hello, my name's Graham," and the lady there said, "My name's Enid, and this is Richard, and he came in last night and he didn't have a shirt, he didn't have a place to stay, and I found him a shirt and a place to stay. What do you think about that?" And I was just about to open my mouth and said, "My name's Enid, and Richard came in last night, didn't have a shirt and a place to stay, and I found him a shirt and a place to stay. What do you think about that?" So she went through this 3 times, and I thought, what am I doing here? How do I get to chat? And suddenly this idea dropped into my mind. Really, it was nearly Christmas time. And I said, "I think you've been given a Christmas present, Enid. She never really ever gave me a Christmas present my whole life." I said, "Oh yes, I think they have. It's Richard." Do you know, she looked at me, she had one of those sort of glazed mullet looks before that thing, and she looked at me, her eyes cleared, and she had the nicest, gentle smile on her face, and she looked across the table at Richard and she said, "Yes, yes, I got Richard." And Richard, the other side of the table, in this awful looking shirt. It was a vivid, highly starched plaid thing that didn't suit him a bit. He banged his fork on the table and said in a very loud voice, "I'm a Christmas present, I'm a Christmas present." I was telling this to a Nobel Prize winning physician about a month after that in Boston. And he said, "So?" I said, "What do you mean so?" He said, "Well, what's the point of the story? What happened to Enid? What happened to Richard?" I said, "I really don't know." He said, "What's the point?" I said, "It's what happened to me." "Well, what happened to you?" He said, "I found out you can volunteer for something for which you have absolutely no talent whatsoever. You're scared to death, and in the middle of it all, you have one of the most wonderful things that ever happened to you in your whole life. You gave somebody what was something that was true that delighted them both. What else can you do?" It was just after that I found out something that led our little team in what we tried to do called C3. You can imagine a big C and then the 3 as like cubes up at the top. And C3 is 3 words starting with C. The first one is compassion, the second word is commitment, and the third word is consistency. And if I may just quickly about this one, compassion is a really interesting word. It comes from the Latin compatre, which means a fellowship of suffering. And every one of us who've ever heard the Good Samaritan story, I'm sure, reckons that when that Samaritan was moved by compassion, that he actually felt compassionate towards the guy in the ditch. The only problem is that that was not the way that was originally seen and understood. What was seen to be understood was that you felt compassion because God sees the ruin in the ditch, and it breaks his heart to see it, and he gets a hold of us, fits us between his love and that need, and we are moved then by his brokenness to deal with the man's brokenness. And so where we see ruin today and feel compassion today, It's not just that we're feeling empathy, it's not that we're feeling sympathy. If we're feeling compassion, then that motivates us to go way beyond anything that we ever thought that we could do ourselves. And it's that if a thing doesn't get burst in compassion as we see ruin all around us, then it really can wind up as a bit of a dead work. Because if we're angry, if we're sort of political in some sense, we're trying to remake the world ourselves. No. It really might be that, as we heard in the invitation today, that we have this great creator who created it and it is ruined and there needs to be fixing done. And therefore we pick that up as vibrations, if you will, for his will be done through us. The second thing is really to make a public commitment. Trina and I have learned over time that when we make a little private commitment to do something, that it's okay, but when we make it public, when people we know that we're going to be committing to doing something, it sort of makes us responsible. It's sort of, you know, I put my life and my words on the line and say, we are going to do this. Here am I sending. And so that commitment level is really an important thing. And then the third thing is just keep on turning up. I have a friend who actually gives the idea of what's called the law of leverage. And he said if there's a great big ship lying alongside a dock and there's no wind and no tide, and there's a big hawser lying alongside it, you can go up and you can lean on that hawser. And depending how big it is, he gave me a tonnage, and he said, you're about 200 pounds. So a 200 man leaning at 35 degrees on a 4-inch hood, it just went on. It left me for dead, really. I mean, you bankers can follow me, but the rest of you can't. And he said the whole vessel will come alongside in about 30 hours, simply because you leant on it. Now you grab a hold of that and you pull it, you get 20 men and pull it, it's not going to move. But if you consistently go in compassion and with a deep commitment to do that thing, do it and get it done, it will happen. It's amazing. You don't have to be bright. You don't have to be that intelligent. You do have to keep turning up. And that's what's so extraordinary as we look at today. I want to give you a metaphor because I'm supposed to be a master of metaphoric speaking. And you can give me the thumbs down if you think I didn't make master category on this one. I absolutely love this idea. If you don't like it, tough. You're not a good judge of metaphors. So you're driving down the road at the present moment, you come to an intersection, it's got a green light, it's been green for some time, and you are tramping along with a good old American dream. You have an appointment to be at, and speed is important. Keep it green, keep it clean, keep it clean. It looks like it might go to amber. It is, yes, it goes to amber, you're nearly on the line, so and you hurl yourself through the intersection. That, my friends, is the American dream. All about me, get what I need to get it right now, keep it green. And then I get to benefit, my kids get to benefit, my little portion of the world makes it through the intersection. Now, there's the other person who approaches the intersection and it goes amber and they have enough room, and very quickly they look in their rear vision mirror because they were anticipating the possibility, and they see that they're not being tailgated by somebody else, and they slow down quickly and stop. And there they have to wait until other traffic goes backwards and forwards. That, my friend, is the American ethic. And our problem recently is we had too much dream and not enough ethic. It was all about what we could pull out of this thing whilst it was still going, and not so much about what we can do to slow down and keep our eyes open for people who are simply not making it, who are en route to the American dream. Maybe the American dream is, I want a house. That surely is the American dream for mine. And then somebody who is selling mortgages says, I have a mortgage I can sell to you, and the two collided in the middle, and we had an accident. And we know what that accident is, and we're living in the middle of it now. But we have a new day, and it's a new hope, and it's a new game that we're going to be playing. I call it the 08 game. That's the 8 ball in pool. If the 8 ball rolls up very close to the pocket, you know, just an inadvertent move up the other end of the table, if you knock it down, you lose the game. And I think we had a great deal of activity going on at that time. Nobody intended for that to happen, but the 8 ball rested right on that bridge. It didn't go down, and it is getting better. And we have a new game that we can play. And the game that we play is not nervous about knocking the ball down. It's moved away from the pocket now. We can play a good American game. We have to have an American dream. It has to provide something like 70% of what we call our poverty. That's a Freudian slip. What we call our economy. But if it is bereft of the American ethic, where we in honor prefer one another, where we see people on a hard road having a tough time, and we stop for a while and we come alongside them as volunteers, we put our arm around them, we get to know their name. Trina will not put money in a hat without knowing the person's name first. Where are you, what's your name, and where are you from? Jack, I'm from Alaska. Oh, my name's Trina, I'm from England. And she, would you please receive this for me? Their connection has been made in some way. It's not just chucking something at someone. There is a relationship that's involved in coming alongside those who hurt and are in harm's way. So, one of the things at the present moment that my beloved and I are doing, just as seed sowers, this is why we love this concept of seed sowing so much. Thank you for your early comment on that. Johnny Appleseed he was a very odd man. Not quite as odd as that. But he went around and planted apple seeds and got little apple orchards going. So there was cider available, by the way, rather than apples to eat. There were cider apples. But aside from this, we see ourselves with an idea dropping it at the present moment. Here's the idea. It's, I don't know whether, are you familiar with the idea, an elevator pitch? You've heard that? It's supposed to be 2 minutes and 15 seconds, according to Wikipedia. And it must be right. I like the idea of Abu Dhabi, or wherever it is, the largest building in the world, where it takes 12 minutes to get to the top by elevator. I need 12 minutes, but I haven't got it, so we'll try for the short one. I love the idea of fresh produce getting to people who have needs. I really like that, because I've seen so many food banks in my time with canned produce and 4-day-old baked goods and things like that. These are not the best choices. The best choice is mutton. Okay. The best choice is the freshest it can be, and then we have to equip the food banks so that they can keep it fresh. And it's also better to be fresh out of a person's garden than out of Mexico up to here on the Safeway shelves, and then when it's tired enough to not sell, then it gets to wind up in the food bank. That is also, time out of soil is too long. So the big thing, appleharvest.org, which you could go on and see, is connecting individual growers like me with food banks where I live, the closest food bank to me, and is helping to equip those food banks with refrigeration and the right day of the week so that my fresh produce can come out of the soil, down to the food bank, and in somebody's kitchen within 12 hours, you guys. Man, I mean, that is so cool. We also need to be able to instruct those in food banks that we don't think that they are somehow down there somewhere. We think they're on a journey. And what a wonderful thing that you've chosen us as one of your way stations to be able to pick up something on your route, because there's a better life for you. And as you're doing this better life, do you know how to cook this thing? No. Hey, we've got this great little folder which, do you speak English? Not too well. Well, we have it in translation for you. This is how you cook it. And here's a little DVD. Everybody's got a DVD. Doesn't seem to matter how poor one is. One has a blender and a DVD and a television set. And of course, the other people say they don't need anything, will say that they have a car and everything else, and they're lazy. And I absolutely get fed up when I hear that. These people do not feel that way. Yeah, there must be those who do fit in that category, but 99% of those that I met are dear people struggling to put ends together and are deeply impressed by the fact that somebody cares for them. And I want to be in the company of people who care for people, not those who sniff at them. I've had enough of that. So, what we want to do is we want to get more community gardens going. Go down the road here in Everett, there's about 12 different neighborhoods. We have 12 neighborhood gardens, and they're growing those now. We need very good-hearted people to grow gardens, edible gardens, which are really in season, and get this food, get it out, and get the people to understand that it's there and that we're gardening for each other. Garden at home, garden away. One here, say in Linwood. Another one, where? Brazil somewhere, on the northeast of Brazil, very poor area. How about another place that comes to mind? Haiti, there's another one. How about where you would like to see it go, and your organization would like to see a little garden growing somewhere, green, in the midst of nothing? That's an exciting connection to make between the two. Yeah, I've done mine, but also done that. I call it BISI, B-I-S-I, beyond immediate self-interest. Self-interest is being human. Immediate self-interest is simply responding to marketing. Beyond immediate self-interest is saying marketing is going to have to come second because there is a better way to live this life than the way that I'm living it at the present moment. And I want to be a part of that movement. So, what happens is, look, visualize with me the word threat for a moment. Okay? Threat. Now, take a hold of the H and pull the H up in the air and snap that word together. What do you get? Somebody quick! Treat! That's right! You get the word treat. Now, let's assume that you have an ice cream. You can... What a treat that is. Especially rum raisin ice cream. I know, that's what's called lust. Let's call it plain vanilla for a moment. In the beginning, you had a treat. Then the marketers saw that you liked that treat and wanted to make more money out of it, and there were more competitors, so they have to do something to upgrade that experience. And so they enhance the experience and then increase the portion size, which of course increases our portion size. We are, as a result of which, as a nation, really considerably overweight. We actually almost are record holders in the world today. That's because of marketing. It's not because we're gluttons. They took a treat and made it into a threat. And they're not wrong in doing that. They're surviving. This is not a criticism of anybody. But us, we can choose to snap that volume back again. And I have a website, which is grahamkerr.com. It doesn't sell anybody anything. It started out to try it, but it failed. So it still exists today as something that doesn't, no advertising. If any of you banks would like a place, it's only had 51 million hits on it so far. So anyway, so here's this thing, and it will be a list of 35 foods that can do you personally damage if you have too large a portion and have it too often. Okay? So you just simply take 2 items only in a month, and you follow the little spreadsheet across, and it's very easy to work out how you can actually save calories and save money by actually reducing the volume of some of the things you consume. Now, let's assume that you can save some money. Trina and I, not to earn a brownie point, over 26 years now, have actually saved $47,000 on our food budget. And that we have taken out of our food budget and given away. So we had habits that harmed us that became resources that healed other people. Do you see that? At the moment, we are spending billions of dollars a year harming ourselves in the United States that we could be spending healing both ourselves and disparate people groups around the world who were desperate. Wouldn't that be a hard shot for someone to call us the great Satan if we did a thing like that? So, grow a small garden. I don't know what you belong to. Even if, there's a few of you clustering around something, and you feel good about the world. Like, that's why you came here today, because these people do such a wonderful job. So, grow a garden somewhere, and then connect it to another garden somewhere else. Give yourself to that idea with compassion, thinking if you were God and you were the creator God, and you had in Genesis looked down on day 6 and looked at what you had done and said, it is very good. In the Hebrew that means perfect. Now if he looks down on what we've done with his creation, what would he call that? I don't know what his vocabulary would be for that. But it sure doesn't look like it's perfect. So if it isn't perfect, how can it get healed? And I just love the idea that we could grow little gardens and see the globe that NASA shot with lots of little tiny pinpricks of green all over the place, of things growing up and spreading out and providing the food that he just happened to grow in the garden before he created us for it, whatever. And I know there are people here today who may say, oh, it doesn't fit into the genome practice, or it doesn't fit into carbon dating. I don't care. That doesn't bother me. I like the idea of a father who grew a garden and then took his creation and said, here, eat this. Enjoy. Just don't eat that one. My friends, if there's anything in this world that I love more than my beloved, it's the fact that we, the people, we are citizens and neighbors in one of the most important nations on earth. And we have a great history of loving and caring for our neighbors. That's the American ethic. And we've had less ethic than more drink. And it hasn't worked. Now, since it is a new day, and it is a new day, why don't we do that? Why don't we think carefully? Next time you come up to an intersection and it goes amber, please stop. And whilst it's red, pray in any way that you choose, feel led to pray. What do I do with my life at this time to make a difference? A lot of people are coming to Volunteers for Marriage and finding that special place where they can sit at a table where they're completely out of their depth and find words put in their mouths which brings joy. We need a lot more joy at this time, and a future where we cut each other off less, where we give each other freedom to move, where we help each other to move with hope, where we inspire people, where we sow that seed on a daily basis to someone. Come on, you guys. If I ripped off my bee tie in a moment, but why don't we get the buzz going? To buzz, you don't have to go far from home, like the bee. Pollinate somebody with this idea. It won't produce honey. There's no money to be made in this, but there is the degree of satisfaction in seeing a nation of seeing a nation go through a really tough time and coming out a whole lot better. Let me just finish off with this. If you haven't read anything about it, there is a little movement called Tikkun, T-I-K-K-U-N, I never remember the second word, but it doesn't matter. Tikkun is enough. Google it and find it out. It means, in a sense, leave the world in a little better condition than when you found it. It's not just about us, but it's about the planet as well. I don't want to get in and be controversial now about planets and all that sort of thing. I just believe with all my heart that we've come to a place of understanding, and with that understanding, it's going to be a whole lot better. And I'm so glad to be alive at a time like this. Thank you so much.